Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of SJGames Live. With just me and Jimmy in the studio today. Brandon's on vacation, and we're doing something a little bit different. We have teased a little bit. We've talked about doing hobby streams. If you were at our last FNORDCon, you would have known that Ben did a painting stream for Car Wars. We're all, a few of us here are big fans of hobbying, like miniature building, painting, stuff like that, myself included. I even stream it on my own channel, and I thought, hey, we could do some of that here. Not painting yet. We do want to do a painting stream with Ben, especially, but vacation times didn't really line up super well, so we're going to start that in August. However, for now, I wanted to actually build a few of the models from Ogre Miniature Set 1. This is actually the original Ogre Miniature Set that came out, I guess it's been a few years now. This contains the miniatures to go with Ogre. The basic Ogre set works for Ogre 6th edition, obviously. Or older editions if you want to do that, but it's kind of sized for 6th edition. And if you remember, we played Ogre 6th edition pretty recently, so I figured, hey, we could have the plastic miniatures for it if we do that in the future. We could also paint it up at some point. Ben did a really great set of Ogre miniatures when the set was coming out, and you can probably find those online. We've shared those a lot over the years, and yeah, they're just incredible. Yeah, and I'm sure you can show us how to paint some other ones in the future as well. But for now, I just want to kind of go through building the minis themselves. Build a few of them on the stream today. I probably won't build the whole box. There's a number of miniatures in here, but you get a good scope for what's in here. And this is not our only Ogre Miniature set. We've actually done a few of these so far. I believe we're all the way up to. I think we have done 3 total sets, and we have a 4th one potentially in development. So keep an eye out for that. But let's go ahead and crack into it. This is actually one I've actually had in my personal collection for a while. We'll pull the minis out, and then I'll go through the tools and stuff here, and we'll kind of what you need to build stuff. These don't come pre-assembled. Some minis in here are only 1 or 2 pieces, so they're not the hardest to assemble. Some of them are a few more. So we've got all the sprues here. We got the, oh, actually, sorry, whoops, dropped some of the components there. I forgot there's loose stuff. This also comes with the Ogre Miniatures Light rules. So you actually get rules to play it out of the box if you want to just use the minis rules instead of using it with the board game. There's a full miniatures rule set that you can use, but this is like the light sheet, so it has like just what you need. Plus, it's a little built-in measuring stick up here for measuring on a freeform board, which is, if you play the miniatures variant, how you'd play that. And then we've got our instructions here, which tells you how to build everything. We've got all the stuff. Like I said, not a ton of pieces. The ogre is obviously going to be the toughest thing to build, but not impossible. Just a few extra pieces there. So let me move this stuff off to the side. The pieces I dropped there were just cards and the dice. So it actually came with a, I don't know if they still, I believe they still come with this. This is the kind of pearlized die. Let's get the overhead on this one just because it's interesting looking. It's got like the kind of pearly white to it. And while we're on the overhead, let's take a look at the our supplies, I guess, things that I brought here. So we got our sprues, obviously. We got our instructions. That's all important. For cutting, I've got a pair of nippers. These are just from I believe this is from a Gunpla model kit set that I had around. You can get, there's wire nippers. You can get model nippers like this. I have a really nice set of nippers too. I didn't happen to bring those. I just have them tucked away somewhere, but these should be good enough for something like this. I have a hobby knife. You want to nip them off the sprue, but then you want to use your hobby knife to get rid of any loose sprue, which I'm sure I'll be able to show you here in a second when I start doing it. This is not the sharpest hobby knife, mostly because I'm using it to like scrape away mold lines potentially, and get rid of sprue bits. It's still pretty sharp on the bottom end here, or sorry, it's pretty sharp on the top end here. A little duller on the bottom end because I use the top more for cutting and I use the bottom end for scraping. So that's just something to keep in mind for that. It's just a regular X-Acto, and I use kind of generic blades that you can find. And I have 2 different glues here. I have regular super glue, and I've got Tamiya extra thin model cement. This is what I use for most of my plastic stuff. A little tougher, not tougher to work with, but I'd say I wouldn't start off with plastic cement because it's runnier. And it technically what it does is it's actually melting plastic together, so it kind of, you lose some of the details sometimes, and also if you get your finger on it, it'll kind of melt your fingerprint into the plastic, so you're literally it's literally doing a chemical reaction. Also can potentially give you some fumes, but it's not too bad. And this is just regular Loctite super glue. You can use pretty much any brand that works for you. I like Loctite gel because it goes on, it stays where I want it. I use Zap-A-Gap as well. It's another great one for modeling. A little runnier, but usable in different applications. I'm going to try out the plastic glue because I actually haven't built these models before, so I'm going to try it out on this, see if it works, because it doesn't work with all plastic. But you know, if it works, I'd prefer using it. I brought the super glue just in case it didn't, though. And have a cutting surface. I usually have a cutting mat that's just a piece of cardboard. You know, doesn't need to be anything special. You can be whatever you got, as long as it's thick enough to stop your blade from, like, if you're chopping down from cutting your tablecloth or your table. That's kind of what you want. So let's start with something a little bit easier, nothing crazy here. We've got a mix of units. We've got all our tanks. We've got GEVs here. It looks like a sprue of GEVs. We've got... Ooh, we'll start with the command post probably because it's only got a few pieces. A lot of the sprue in here is dedicated to infantry because you have a lot of individual infantry units. We got howitzers, we got our missile tanks, it looks like, and our more heavy tanks. Looks like an extra heavy tank there, and then those. And then all this is, the big sprue here is all infantry. Infantry is interesting because it actually has a clip on the base here to clip in and out of the base. So these actually won't require glue, so we're probably not going to put these together. These just need to be clipped off and then clipped in the base. They might need to clean up a sprue or something here or there, so this isn't really like a major one for us. The reason being because during gameplay, you can lose infantry from your bases without killing the whole unit. So it gives you the ability. You know, let's cut one off. Let's show you how they clip in. So we're just gonna clip one off here. I won't do a full unit just because it's the same for all three of them. They're all the same sculpt. And unfortunately, these sprue points on here are in a tough spot, but you can get to them with fine-tipped, with those fine tips there on the clippers. And then for this, I'll just clean up here. And he's got a little bit of sprue on the top of that little helmet. They're very tiny. But they're mono piece, so you don't have to worry about anything else. And let me cut out one of these bases. And actually the bases are cool because they actually come in actually three different formations. So not all the formations on these models are going to look exactly the same. And they do come, even though they're not pre-painted, they do come in molded in the color of the factions. At least the default factions from 6th edition. And just so you guys can see, so it clips in here. And these guys will clip right into the base. And they are pretty tight little clips, so you don't want to break them, but they go in pretty well. My hand's a little bit sweaty, unfortunately, so I'm losing grip. And I don't want to break anything. Yeah, I'm going to clip them in first here, though. There it goes. Okay. Yeah, let's do this side cam here. So just so you can see, let me move the stuff behind it. We've got a little dude in there, and you can see on here the clips to actually fit in there. You can fit up to 3 bases, and then you can just pop them out as they die. They just pop right out. They got 2 little clips on the bases, and you get a bunch of that, so you should have enough to cover the basic scenario. So let's actually go through, and I'll move the supplies off to the side here. Let's do the command post. Kind of a small flat piece, just like the command post in the cardboard version. These do a great job of simulating what the tokens would have looked like, and they use a lot of the original metal minis from back in the day. We did have a pretty robust line of metal miniatures, which are cool, and I think they're really neat. I'm just not a fan of working with metal. I definitely prefer plastic, so I'm really glad we got to re-release a lot of this stuff. So we've got okay, great. So there's like 2 different types of little antenna here. We've got a kind of a ball antenna and then this flatter, more traditional looking antenna. The only thing I'm checking here is making sure I don't cut the stems off because there's little holes where the stems go. Now these are pretty small pieces, so if you're doing this with kids or something like that, do keep that in mind. It might be a little too small for them. Fortunately, these parts, all the snipping is done on the post itself, so it's not that big a deal putting them in here and fitting them. Let's see. So this goes in. Let's make sure I put this in the right spot. Yep, you gotta turn it around. It looks like right here. And what I'm doing right now is dry fitting, so I don't have the glue on there just yet. I want to make sure that they fit where they're supposed to go before I glue it in. Oh man, this is one other tool that you could use as well. I don't use it as much building, but maybe you should because my fingers are so chunky here. Is tweezers. You might need tweezers, especially for pieces like this. So this one looks like it should fit there. If I can get it to fit. Yep, that fits. And let's check this. Which side is the post? There it is. This one goes right in there. So I'm actually going to slide these in now. This one will hold off, but there's something unique with the plastic glue. We're going to test the plastic glue on this one, see if it works. So this one's brand new bottle. There we go. With plastic glue, it's so thin, it can kind of run into the cracks a little bit. So what I'm going to try to do is leave these pieces in here so I don't have to like kind of keep resetting them, and then just kind of put the glue around the edge so it'll run into the crack. The catch here is we're going to see if it reacts. I'm pretty sure it will work just fine with this plastic. This is just ABS hard plastic. Usually with plastic glue, the stuff you have to worry about is the soft plastics. Some miniatures have softer, more malleable plastics. I think they're usually PVC. So some board game miniatures don't really work super well with that. But I think they should work just fine here. And it's got a brush applicator for the plastic glue. We're gonna just do this here, do this here, and you obviously can't smell because you're on a stream here, but there is a little bit of a fume with plastic glue, so something to keep in mind. Again, if you're sensitive to like fume stuff like that, this is where you'd probably want to use just a super glue, which super glue works just fine. I would say I'm not like anti-super glue or anything like that. The reason to do it this way, however, for me, for plastic glue, my preference for it comes from the fact that it makes a really seamless bond, a really strong bond and seamless because it's actually melting that plastic together. Again, one catch is that you might melt some detail or something. There's not a lot of detail where I'm gluing though. It's just kind of a round ball and a hole plugged into it, so nothing really to mess up there. And for this one, I'm going to just put some in the hole first because it's a little bit bigger. We're going to slide that in. Top. There we go. And there we go. That is a completed command post. So it only takes a few pieces there. It's pretty much just the top little antennas and radar dishes and stuff like that, and that is ready to go. So we'll set that aside for now. One sprue down. Probably won't do it all, but we'll do a smattering of everything, and then I'll do at least one of all the units here, and then we'll start on one of the ogres here in a sec. Let's do one of these heavy tanks. Probably one of the most classic units. I'd say this is, other than the Ogre, one of my most iconic units. When I think of Ogre, I kind of think of the heavy tank. And it's only a couple pieces. Again, we try to keep these pretty simple. If you're not a veteran crafter or anything like that, or not a minis person, I know when we did the Kickstarter initially for these, a lot of people were worried. They hadn't done miniatures before. They weren't really, they weren't hobbyists necessarily. But really, it's not a lot of building for this. And I'm a fan of the way that we did the Ogre 6th edition and the initial Kickstarter set, the big deluxe set, because you have those cardboard pieces that require they're like more of a puzzle than they are a miniature, but they work so well for people that aren't a fan of like building minis and things like that. You just put together kind of a little mini puzzle, and you've got the minis there. So if you're not a fan of doing hobby stuff like this, you already have a pretty good option that already has the graphics on them. But if you want to kind of deluxify your set a bit, I think this is a great upgrade to kind of make your your 6th edition set, especially kind of a deluxe set. Another tool to have potentially is files. I'm using a knife for it, but you can also file down the files or sanding sticks or emery boards, if you know, for like doing your nails, are great for this. I use emery boards a lot for various mold lines and things like that. These things are pretty clean though, and with mold lines, what I'm referring to with mold lines is, this is a little bit harder to show. I can't really show it on here, but what you're looking for is like lines where the mold release happens. So when you form miniatures like this, it's usually in a mold where it's a two-sided mold, and then it's formed inside, and then it opens up, and there's your miniatures. That's where how the sprues and stuff are done. It's done on a mold. But occasionally you'll get mold lines where like some of the plastic is kind of just a little bit. It's getting into where the mold kind of separates. So you might have like just an edge of plastic, which pretty easy to scrape off. Again, you can use files, you can run the blade of your knife across it to get it off. Just slight annoyances, nothing to super worry about, but really these are pretty clean. I don't see really any mold lines I'm having to worry about here. So right now I'm just scraping the nubs off. That's really all there is to it. Now you could actually just press fit these, which I actually might just do. I don't really care. I want to lock these into place because these are really tiny pieces on the command post and are, they could fall out. But this actually fits extremely snugly, and it means I can turn it. Like, this is really snug. So this isn't coming out. Plus, it gives me the option to turn the cannon. It's a small, fun little thing that I can do. It's not like required that I have the option to turn it, but it's a cool option. So why get rid of it? And if you want to make this even tighter, when you paint it, if you are painting it, you can leave the turret out, and when you paint this, if you spray it with a primer or something like that, it'll make it even snugger to fit in there, so it'll hold in better. So that's cool. Even less steps, just a tank turret and a tank. You got the tank there. So that's our tank done. We got a heavy tank. Let's do a missile tank. I wonder if I'm thinking a lot of these steps might actually have, like, the turrets might actually fit in press fit, because I do recall now that with Ben's miniatures, he had I remember even on the painted minis I could move some of the turrets, so it's possible that a lot of these just kind of press fit, which is great. Makes it a lot easier for building, and makes it gives it a little bit of a toyetic ability to it. You can have the ability to move the turret. That's just a fun little extra, So this is the missile tank. We're gonna clean this one up a little bit. Let's just take those sprue marks off again. There, and there was the other one. Do we have any questions in chat by chance, Jimmy? While I'm scraping lines here, I want to make sure I don't miss anything. If anyone has any questions, there we go. Just getting ready. Cool.
She's never played Ogre, but she's painted me on minis.
Awesome. Yeah, the minis are awesome, and the more sets that we get to do, because we keep doing these on our different. It's not. I was gonna say Kickstarter, but it's not all Kickstarter. So crowdfunding. We've done Indiegogos for them as well. I think most of these have actually been on Indiegogo, to be honest, and they're really the more we get to fund, the more we get to do, which is awesome to see, because it's cool to see like more of the obscure stuff come out, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because there's a ton in the Ogre world. Like if you've only played basic, like the Ogre Pocket Box or Ogre 6th edition, it's a lot of fun, but there's a lot of cool units that came out in the expansions, in GEV later. Just a ton of cool stuff. The opposite factions version of ogres, which I cannot recall the names of now, but they're like just different types of giant war tanks. I actually can't remember if they're AI controlled as well or not. I don't know what the lore on those as well. The ogres are, but there's some other ones. There's another one of the other factions has like ogre-like sized things. I think they were in the last. If you backed Ogre Miniature Set 3, I think they were in there. I just can't remember the name off the top of my head. They're big. They're really big. So this one can press fit in, but it doesn't rotate as well. It's not as snug. So we're actually gonna glue this one down. It's a little shallower, which makes sense because this one has a thicker body, so it has the ability to actually press fit. This one's a little bit shallower because it's thinner. So we're gonna glue this in, which is fine. The rotating isn't really like you know, a necessary function. It's just a bonus that we could happen to get. So we glue this in. One thing to keep in mind: make sure you know which way on these tanks is front, because some of these machines are a little bit, you know, they're really sci-fi futury. So, you know, there's some weird stuff like this one's the front of this one's got the little you can see it from the side here. It's like a little nubbin up here. That's the entire cockpit. And yeah, so that is the missile tank that's glued in there. Missile tank completed. These are also designed to fit on the hexes for 6th edition and your deluxe set. So anything that uses the modern hexes, these fit. Let's do. I'm saving the Howitzer for last on the unit side of things. Let's do a GEV. I'd like to do one of these. So we'll pop off GEV and one of its little gun turrets here. Actually, I think these are the jets. Never mind, not gun turrets. Yeah, those are like its engines. Trim this. The GEV is a little bit different because it's got all these ridges around the side, so it's something to keep an eye out. The little nubs are going to be on the ridges for this because it's got a it's a hovercraft, so it doesn't have wheels or anything like that. It's not a flat base or treaded base. It's got these like, huh? Is it full of eels? No, I don't think so. I love this sculpt though. Again, not a lot. This one, like, you could see where the mold line is. It's around the bottom, the base here. So if you wanted to, you could run the knife across the edge here just to clean it up a little bit. I might do that later if I was, you know, going in to paint them. I'm not painting it right now, so I'm not really worried about it. But if you were curious where that was on this model, this one has a mold line kind of around the ridges. A little annoying to have to clean up, but it's not the worst. I've had way worse than that. And then we clean up the engines here, which had just a couple nubs. There and there. Make sure I'm aiming them in the right direction, which I think I am. And these, since the connection point's a little smaller, I'm just going to put them in first, and then we're going to glue around there. Try not to get it on my finger. One thing, also interesting thing about plastic glue, I guess I didn't even mention. So it doesn't actually bond with skin like super glue does. I was not trying to blow to dry. That was trying to blow a piece of fur off of it. I've got I've got an orange cat at home. So if you ever see me with like in any of my shirts a black, like especially my black shirts, which are most of them, you see like cat hair. That's him. But that also gets on my mini supplies, unfortunately. So I'm always used to having to blow little tiny hairs off of it. So there's our GEV. Oh, so I was saying, plastic glue doesn't bond with your skin. If you've ever used super glue before, which as a miniature guy, I've been doing this since like the late 90s, and I've used a lot of super glue. I've only started using plastic glue in the past couple years. This stuff, after a building session, your hands are solid. They're just solid glue. And it's so hard to get off. This stuff doesn't do anything. I mean, it's not, I'm sure it's not great for you. It's not, I don't recommend it. But like, if I put my finger in there for a second, it just comes out wet and I just have to wipe it off with a paper towel. That's it. If I spill it on something, unless that thing is plastic, you're good. However, if you have a plastic cutting board like I have, don't tip an entire bottle over. I have done that as well. And it turns out it will melt the top off a plastic cutting board real fast. So we're down to the Howitzer, which I don't know what it is about the Howitzer, but it's one of my favorite, like, it's not just my favorite mini, it's my favorite unit. I think it's a lot of people's, like, favorite unit because it's got that power projection. You've got such a big zone of, like, such a big area where it can shoot. It feels so strong. Like, last game, if you watched our Ogre game last time between me and Jimmy, we actually had pretty much a mini game, which was just avoid the Howitzer. I went one entire side of the board and drove across the other side of the board just to avoid his Howitzer. And it won me the game. I avoided the Howitzer shooting me for longer. Jimmy might say that his bad rolls won me the game. I disagree.
Combination.
I disagree. But I really like this mini for another reason, which is I love the sculpting on here. It actually has sculpted tiles, just like the art would for these pieces. So it's like it's got the emplacement, it's got the controls over here, and it's got all the the actual physical tiles, which I think is a really cool effect. So I've been talking about painting a few times. Stuff like this is nice because having details and like jagged edges and stuff like that is great for painting if you want to get a lot of texture without having to have a lot of I can easily do a wash or something on this type of stuff, and it pops really well. It shows a lot of detail without having to put a lot of paint on it, if that makes sense. This one actually fits in really well. This fits better than the heavy tank, so we're gonna leave that like this. We could always pop it out later, but it pops in like a glove, and it's really tight. So we can rotate the howitzer around. That's really cool. It's a bonus, and it's not coming out at all. So we've got a howitzer. So that's pretty much your lineup, and you get enough to fill out multiples of that. We have again, we have the infantry. We'll just throw one over here just so we can show it that it exists on the clipping things. There we go. We're not going to build all of those, but because I really want to build one of the ogres to make sure we have at least time for one of the ogres. I think we'll have enough time to do both, though. So let's see. So this one we had to glue in, but these have rotating turrets, which is pretty nice. Now, if you're not a miniature painter, this would be enough. Like, you have a blue set, you'll have a red set here in a sec. You have it based on the colors. There's a couple levels you can kind of take this, though. If you wanted to fully paint them, you would prime them with your, some kind of plastic usable spray paint primer. Probably is the cheapest and easiest way to do it. And then paint from there. Or if you wanted to, you could also do washing like an ink wash. I've seen that a lot of people do that with their board game minis. If they don't want to paint them, they just give it a wash to give it a little more depth. And that's why I was mentioning stuff like the tiles here on the howitzer, things like the ridges on the GEV, and just the contours will really show well. What I'd recommend for something like that is if you have like some kind of a varnish spray, like a matte varnish or something like that, to put like a base of that on there, like maybe not a matte varnish, a satin varnish, something like that, some kind of a varnish, and then doing a wash on top. If you have something like Null Oil from Games Workshop's paints line, or some other wash that is usable on miniature paint. When I say wash, I mean like a really thin paint. It's almost like a water that happens to have some pigment in it. And you just put like a black wash on it, and there you go. You got a little bit of depth on it. I might, if we are able to do a painting session for one of these in the future, we can probably show something like that, because that's a really quick and easy way of doing painting and just having, or a dip, yeah, army painter dip. I would recommend though, just since these are not primed, to do some kind of something on them. I wouldn't, since they're already in the colors. If you want to leave them in this color, I would do some kind of a varnish on them. Not a like a solid color primer, but maybe like a matte varnish or a satin varnish or something like that. Before you do it. But those are those, so let's slide those forward here, and we'll jump into one of the ogres. I think we've got both of the ogres. Yeah, both the ogres here. We'll start the, there's a I believe a Mark 3 and a Mark 5. But the instructions should tell me. Yep, Mark 3, Mark 5, just like Ogre 6th edition, so there you go. And we actually did a few cool sets of these, an alternate plastic as well. We had like glow-in-the-dark ones and stuff like that. So those especially, you probably wouldn't want to paint them because they're glow-in-the-dark. That's kind of their gimmick. But pretty cool. I really dig that. Also, just in case you're wondering, you can actually still get these. These are available on Warehouse 23. And other Ogre Miniatures stuff is available on there as well. Let's start with the Mark III. So as you can see, a few more pieces on this one. And this stuff will almost assuredly have to be glued down. There's not really any benefit for having any of this stuff loose anyway. There we go. There's our base. And the instructions, they're numbered by step. They're not numbered by piece, but the reason being on that is these pieces are all they're all identical. So they're like all the tread pieces are the same, the antennas are the same. Again, we tried to keep it pretty simple when it came to the pieces on here. It's and the models really helped that. Like, these were retro futurist models to begin with. A very specific, awesome style. Love the art from the original Ogre. But they're very symmetrical in a lot of ways. So it's not it wasn't a challenge necessarily to make them easier to build. Although I'm sure it was challenging for whoever was actually doing the sculpts, so I don't want to put words in their mouth. But it wasn't. It was one of the goals was to make them easier to build. So yeah. Again, this is one of those ones where I have to like be careful I don't cut the wrong spot. Yeah, there we go. We're good. Little antennas here. I can say these are definitely the easiest minis I've put together all week. And probably in quite a while, actually. I've been putting together a lot of stuff lately. That should be that entire sprue. And we'll clean them up. Let's see. Already pretty clean. Like I said, these are, and these clippers are doing a good job, the nippers, to get rid of the spruce. There's barely any nubs here. It's not bad. There we go. Do that. Let's do the treads first. Oh, there goes the super glue. Fortunately, I wasn't using that. And if you're wondering on mold line on this, the mold line is on the top and it runs down across the tracks, but it's pretty light. And this is one of those mold lines I probably wouldn't even mess with. So I don't always clean up all the mold lines, especially if there are places I'm not going to see. This one, technically, the mold line's sitting at the top here, which is going to be underneath, and the bottom of the tread. The only place you're going to see the mold line is at the top, like the front and the back of the tread. So it's probably not one I even mess with personally. But, you know, to each their own. Some people want it to be like super clean, super perfect. So, you know, that's kind of going to be up to the person making the model. For me, not important. My thing is, when painting or building, it's very much like, is someone going to see this, and am I going to care if they see it? Because, you know, someone may see it and I may not care that they see it, or someone may see it and I may actually care, and I will fix it. You know, it just depends on how I'm feeling about a particular part. Now we're gonna dry fit these to make sure, but it looks like, yeah, this one has a little bit still there. Oh yeah, those fit in nice. There. This one's not all the way in. Oh, there's a piece of plastic. Some of this. That's one of the catches with having to put it in over, like scratching the excess stuff off the peg. It was just not going all the way in. There we go. That one fits. That one went right in. This is the Mark III, sorry. Yeah. The smaller of the two. Mark V will be the next. I think it's, yeah, that's the Mark III, yes. Yeah, these are all seem to fit this last one, make sure. But I think we're good here. Yeah, it's just fine. Cool. We'll go ahead and put them into place. There. Yeah, there's a ton of contact area on here, so you don't really have to just go in the peg holes themselves. I'm just brushing it on here, which you don't need that much glue, to be honest. I'm just trying to make sure I get a good surface area. There we go. Without, again, getting it on my finger, because I don't want the plastic to melt on me in any way. But yeah, there's a ton of sorry, there we go. A ton of surface area there. Missed the peg the first time. There we go. And again, this is one of those minis, like the bottom of it, you're obviously not seeing a floor, but that's pretty much irrelevant because you're never like, it's just not important to have that sculpted on there. It's just, it's not something you're going to see or paint generally. This is Tamiya extra thin cement. This is right here. I got this at Hobbytown, I think, but it's also available at like other hobby shops. I know one of our local game stores is carrying it now as well, so I'll probably start getting it there. Lionheart down localish. They're down in Kyle. You can find it online too, but it's generally, this is one of those things that some hobby supplies, I find this interesting. There's always that kind of default, you want to buy stuff online a lot of the times. I try to buy in game stores for most things in general. when I can. But this is one thing where I almost always, because it's always more expensive online than it is in the game stores, hobby supplies. Let's see. So this is, oh, this is the actual front gun. So that's cool. That goes in like that. Love that. I love the front gun on the ogres. It's such a cool design. It's such a retro design, but it looks so cool. The little spindly, like almost ray gun. It's one of my favorite design elements on this thing. There we go. Just the little spindle gun. Love that thing. Where's the big antenna? Yeah, let's do the big antenna because I want to see how the guns fit in relation to it. Yeah, the comm tower. Probably the most iconic part of other than maybe the front guns. I think the front gun and the comm tower are probably like the biggest, because they set the silhouette of the ogre so well. The small guns are cool, and like the overall look is obviously important, but like I feel like this tower and the front gun are such a unique element to this. The mold line on this goes right down the back of the ridge, super easy to clean off. And the other side, there actually isn't a mold line really. It's down the ridge, but you can't really see it because it doesn't matter. Just put some in there and around. And boom. And that's one where you probably wanted to dry fit before you fit it there, but just in case. But, you know, I'm pretty confident in this mini at this point. I'm getting a little too confident, but looks good. Looks good. Dig it. And you can obviously see the ogre taking shape there. But to give it its full silhouette, we got to get these little tiny guns on there. The extra flash. I keep saying sprue, but I guess the term is actually flash. Actually, I don't think it's actually flash. I think this is technically, I just call them like nibs or whatever. Flash is more of a thing where it's when there's a lot of plastic left on the sprue. And that doesn't really happen as much anymore. Like that was more of a like, yeah, it was also on metal a lot back in the, especially the like late 90s. I started doing minis around the really late 90s, like 99, 98. It was way worse back then as far as the quality went. So these I'm definitely gonna have to dry fit because there's a few different directions that they can go in here. I want to make sure everything's facing the right way, you know. So we got. I'm actually curious. I don't quite know all the right angles here for these guys. So this one goes, I think. Okay, I think I got that one. I think that one goes, well, is that right? Where's that going here? Sorry guys, this is less an instructional issue and more of a knowledge about the mini here. Okay, I think this one goes up front because it kind of goes up at an angle. That should be right, I believe. I think it's one up, one down. Yep, this one should go up here, I think. And if we do it wrong, it's our ogre. Maybe that's how our ogre looks, you know? What are you going to say? It's an AI. It can do whatever it wants, right? If it wants to aim its guns backwards, aim it down at the ground, who's stopping it? Not you. You're not an ogre. Yeah, I think I got this, though. You're not you don't even have a powered infantry suit. What are you going to do? Telling my ogre what to do. How dare you? How dare you, this straw man argument against my AI-controlled armament? Yeah, there we go. See? Classic. Got the guns off to the side. Dig it. Very ogre-y. Just like a kind of a porcupine of death. I love that look. I can't tell if I got these. I think I may have reversed them, but I'm okay with that. Some are a little more vertical, some are a little more back, but I think I'm fine with that. Still looks like the Ogre, the classic look. That's the Mark III. Love doing those. And here's the Mark V. This thing's chunkier. It's pretty much the same design though, which you know it looks like it shouldn't be any harder to do. Just a couple more antenna, another gun. You know, nothing crazy. So yeah, let's do it. We got time. The Mark V. And I don't think we've actually played with the Mark V yet on the tabletop yet. We've mostly done the Mark III scenarios.
Bigger scenario.
Yeah.
Onboard defender points to get through.
Yeah. Not the easiest one. But we might have to do a rematch now that we got miniatures. Maybe your Howitzer will do something better with the miniatures behind it, right?
Next time I will point by my army of more howitzers than just the one.
Yeah, well, you know that's what our next match will be. How about that? We've done the Hunter can play the. I'm now king of the basic scenario, but we'll see who's better at actually making their own defenses. Because I think we've done enough games now with the basics. You know, we know what the basic stuff is. Can we actually, you know, make a force and defend ourselves with it? Because I'm pretty similar. I like howitzers. I actually like GEVs a lot. They don't do a ton of damage, but they can, like, their ability to just hop in and kind of chase the ogre around and pop its tires it's pretty cool. I like that ability. And it's hard to justify. Like, I know even when I was fighting against you, your GEVs weren't hitting much, but it's hard to, even if they are, it's hard to justify going after them sometimes. Because you have bigger fish to fry generally. There's like heavy tanks and there's missile tanks and stuff like that. And it's like, I want to shoot my good guns at them, not at these GEVs. So if you can't get the GEVs out of range, giving them better options to shoot at is probably the best way to protect them. Shave that down a little bit. One thing to note, since we were talking about miniatures and we mentioned Car Wars earlier, the Car Wars miniatures are actually one piece. You don't actually have to build them. They're not like the Ogre miniatures. Ogre minis are based off of our old metal minis, so they actually are, you know, buildable miniatures. Plus, they're a few more pieces in general. They have just more stuff going on. Well, maybe not more stuff going on, but they have more spindly bits. It's harder to do like a solid piece with all these like tiny bits that hang off of them. But the cars are all single piece. So if you want, if you're not super into this part of it, the actual building process, which I actually enjoy this. I like doing models and stuff like that, but I don't completely understand why some people aren't into it. Not to worry, the Car Wars cars are just regular solid pieces. They do go on bases, but you don't glue them on or anything like that. They're just like, that's just the movement base they use for the game. Nothing too crazy. Now they are unpainted, so if you can do that same trick I have where you just, kind of, you can do a solid color if you want like this, just red, blue, something like that, or you could do a wash, or you could go all the way and do a full paint job like Ben does. And Ben actually, he did a good guide during FedorCon, and we plan to have him on again to do some more stuff like that, especially as it gets closer.
With those, even just a color base coat and a wash.
Yeah.
Make them pop and stand out.
Yeah, honestly, the easiest way I could say to potentially do them is, like if you want to do the bare basic, like you want it to have color on it, and you don't care about the quality, or you want to have color on it and you want it to be table ready, I guess. say you want to be green, you do a base coat, you do like a prime and a base coat in some kind of green, and just paint the windshield black, and you're good. Yeah, and then wash the rest of it. If you want to take it like one step farther, you can paint like the guns in a metallic color, like just get some model paint metallic color and just do the guns in a different color, and that's it. Like you could do that whole model in three colors and take about 15 minutes or so, not counting the drying time.
I think the wash is the thing that makes the big early difference because it lets
Absolutely.
the stand out.
Yes. So I came from a time kind of pre-washes. Washes weren't like super mainstream when I was painting originally, way back in the day when I first started. Um, GW kind of back then it was like all we had was Games Workshop near me, so I kind of that's all I defaulted to. Or testers paints if you really wanted to get like enamel paints, which not just for anyone out there. Again, we're not painting today, but don't do like you can make it work if you're really good, but don't do enamel testers paints on minis like this. It's not a good thing. Don't want that. Um, but there weren't like a lot of washes around. Like the old GW line had washes, but not the newer one. And I remember when they dropped them a more modern wash, and it was just like game changing like overnight the way people painted minis like in the magazines. And like back then now it's great, you can go on YouTube and find so many resources for painting. Information travels so fast. I'd say the average like starting beginner painter is just better than I was like 10 years ago. Like when I'd had 10 years of experience, like someone starting out today could be easily better than me when I had 10 years of experience. Because of how fast information travels. Back then, you're learning from like DVDs and magazines. And when washes came out, we called it liquid talent, and it really felt that way. Like when we were especially younger. I was in like high school, I guess, and man, you threw a wash on something, you just put like a skin tone and a wash, and you suddenly felt like a painting god. Oops, peel that up a little bit. Sorry, this one has a little bit of a less contact point. That's why it's taking a little bit longer. I'm just wanting to make sure it's in there.
I remember when GW had inks, not washes.
I did too.
I don't understand how to use them.
Yes, I actually used them. I had they had a green ink. I had a Skaven army back in the day. Sorry, we're going on a Warhammer tangent. I'm building minis. I can't help it, guys. I'm so sorry. I used to have a Skaven army back in the, I guess like 99 through 2002 or so, and I used to use their green ink to make warpstone. Warpstone's like a green rock they have. That is their kind of like magic power. I didn't even have to. The green ink they had was amazing. It was really good. That was the only thing I used green ink on, but man, it was incredible. I love that stuff. And I went home for the holidays. I guess it wasn't this past holiday, but previously. And there's this little we have this little curio cabinet kind of in the hallway that my dad has, and he keeps some of our old stuff in it. There's like Pinewood Derby cars and whatnot, like little fun neat stuff he did as a kid. And it has a lot of my brother's miniatures in there. A lot of my stuff came with me to like college and stuff, but some of my brother's like Lizardmen stayed in there. But he did have a piece of my warpstone. Like, so what I used to do is I'd get rocks out of the driveway, just regular little rocks, and I'd clean them up and I'd paint them and I'd make them green and then do the green ink on them, and that was my terrain essentially. I even threw them on my bases, so I'd have like basing material, and then among that basing material there was like shiny green warpstone. It was fun, a lot of fun. That's another thing. These don't have bases on them. If you wanted to, you could base them, but these are really sized well for the actual map that you're putting them on. So I probably wouldn't do that with these, just so they fit on your board really well. And the miniature rules, the freeform miniature rules, if you wanted to use those, oops, sorry, didn't have them in the right spot. The freeform miniature rules don't use bases either, so you really don't need to base these in any particular way, which is nice. Not having to do bases is pretty cool. Let's do the antenna. We're going to dry fit it this time. Oh, that fits even better than before. Well, there you go. Yeah, I have a lot of fond memories of miniatures from my childhood and from this just 2 days ago. I'm still doing minis left, right, and center. I love it. I actually just finished another army. I've been really on a roll since last November. I didn't get really going at the beginning of the pandemic like I thought I was. I was pretty much like when the pandemic started, I was like, oh, I'm going to get so much done. And then, kind of the malaise sets in and it gets a little depressing that you're in a pandemic. And I just didn't do anything. And around November, suddenly I kicked into gear and I've been doing painting. I've been building and painting left, right, and center. It's been great. Finished up two entire Warhammer 40K armies, a Blood Bowl team, Marvel Crisis Protocol team, a Star Wars Legion army. Just finished that up the other day. I'm really excited how much I'm getting done. I'm making sure.
I learned more watching the Twitch mini painters for a year than I did fumbling around with no guidance and lousy art teachers to school from 2004 to 2012.
Yeah, no joke. That is super accurate. Like, it's hard to explain to people, like, because I'm not like I'm not very old. I'm oldish. I'm old compared to like Gen Z. I'm 30. I usually have someone to check how old I am. I'm 34. I'm turning 35 this year. So like, I've been painting a long time, but I started when I was pretty young. So that's how I got where I was. But yeah, it's hard to explain, like, coming from a pre-YouTube world to a post-YouTube world and like a Twitch world now. But like having that YouTube resource, just like a baseline resource to so much knowledge and information. Even like now Instagram is such, like, Instagram, 90% of my Instagram use is just like seeing cool stuff and being like, oh, I want to paint that. Oh, I want to do that, Oh, that's a cool model. And everyone has so much talent nowadays. It's great. I think it's super good because it breaks down the barriers. I think back in the day, there are still a lot of gatekeepers in our hobby in general, and not just modeling and painting, but like gaming in a general sense. And it's really unfortunate. But I think the like access to so many resources has helped our hobby so much because you can break those barriers down. Like, it's not the problem isn't necessarily that some people are smarter than others or something like that or have more knowledge. It's that they're gatekeeping knowledge, or it's common knowledge made uncommon by barriers, Like back in the day, lots of people knew how to paint, but to share that information you had to buy a DVD. you know? So some of these I think they're different angles. I might be incorrect though. Let me double check because I'm going to try to get these. I'm going to try my best to get these in the right spot. But if I don't, I don't. I'm not gonna belabor it too much, So this is flat there. This is flat here. I think maybe these are all identical. I might be wrong. Let's dry fit them and see what we get. So there. Actually, these might all be. I think it might just be the holes on this one that's different, which is, if so, really cool. Oh, that one's a little different, actually. Okay, that one, I think, maybe not. Maybe that goes here. Okay, yeah, some of these, the ends are definitely different on some of these. Let's see. How do we angle these right here? They're all supposed to be generally up straight. So let's try this again. Let's do that. Nope, that should go here then, I think. If I can make it fit. Sorry, guys. Just going to take me a second to kind of match up the things. Fortunately, these holes, I can do once I dry fit them in here, I should be able to just glue them in and be good. One's up a little bit more, so let's try this over here.
A Lone Spirit on YouTube says, as for the angles, I assume they pivot around for aiming in real life.
Exactly. So if I miss one here, I'm not going to feel too bad about it. I'm going to try to get it accurate, and if it doesn't fit, but the cool thing is they're symmetrical on both sides. So once I get one right, I can kind of match up the other one and just kind of I think I got it. And yeah, they're just little, they're on spindles here, so it's not like if something's in the wrong position. So there we go. Yeah, we got those where we want them. So since I'm using plastic glue, I can then just kind of put a drop around it and it'll go into the recess there. I just gotta make sure to, you know, press it down to get the right fit. And it doesn't dry so fast to where it like prevents you from moving stuff around too, which is nice. So I can, you know, I can kind of mess around with it for a second, not be like too big a deal. There we go. Gonna go around the edges there. Here. And there. Sure these are kind of facing the way I want them to. And you can kind of see it here. You got the porcupine effect. I just wanted them to be really symmetrical. I think that looks really cool. It's such a cool effect. Oh, I need a little more glue on this back tread. It looks like it didn't make great contact, unfortunately. There we go. So I'd say the trickiest part, actually, it wasn't the guns on this one, it was these back treads, just because the contact point's a little bit slimmer. So something to keep in mind. But overall, not too hard. I think that's pretty much the set there, Jimmy. Let's do a forward, like, actually not forward. Let's do it. I'll slide these all in here. Here we go. I always forget. Like it's always farther back instead of where I thought it was. So we got the Mark V, the Mark III. We've got. Oops. There we go. It's in front of me. Okay, we're there. We got the command post. We got the Howitzer, GEV, heavy tank, missile tank, and an infantry guy. We got a little bit of everything. And again, there's tons more infantry, and there's more of this other stuff to build, which I'll probably do off camera here. But I wanted to get at least one of everything, so you can kind of get a view of what the set looks like. There's a lot of miniatures in here for the money. You've got 3 more Howitzers. We've got 7. So it's 4 Howitzers total, 8 GEVs. 7 sorry, there's another sprue I keep forgetting. So 8 total heavy tanks. There was 2 on this and then 6 on this. And then 4 missile tanks. And then a ton of infantry. It looks like we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 14 bases of infantry. So a lot of minis in there. Plus you get the light rules. You get obviously instructions, which is just a given, plus a die, which is awesome. There's a lot of stuff there. That was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing this. So if hope you guys enjoyed that different like hobby hangout stream. Definitely want to do some more of these types of things in the future. Maybe not building on stream as much since we don't have as much stuff to build, but maybe doing some painting with Ben. Maybe doing painting with both me and Ben. We'll figure it out. We're still working on that stuff, so we'll do some ogre stuff. We'll do some Car Wars stuff in the future as well with the miniatures. We have some other miniature plans you might be interested in the future. So stay tuned for that. Did want to say next week we're going to be taking the week off. We're actually having our first summer game day. We normally have game days in the around Halloween and around Christmas. Obviously didn't get to do them last year because of the pandemic. But it's like an all-day thing where all we do is just come to the office and play whatever games we want. Not just SJGames, but like just board games. Because, you know, we are a board game company. It's probably good to, you know, have some time just to get to play some other stuff and have fun. So this is the first time we're getting to do it in the summer as well. So we're really excited about that. I'm going to probably be bringing some of my minis in. So you'll probably see us on social media, even though we're not going to be doing a stream. I'll be sharing images of our game day on social media, so keep an eye out for that. We'll probably have images of minis and board games, all sorts of stuff on Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff. So keep an eye out for that. I hope you guys enjoy your next week, and we'll see you in August with some more streams, some hobby streams in the future with Ben. So hope you guys have a great weekend. We'll see you later.